Hello and welcome to Moon Monkey. On this episode we'll be talking about Deadpool, directed by Tim Miller and starring Ryan Reynolds.
So it's another origin story, a superhero origin story, and it's former Special Forces and current mercenary Wade Wilson, after being diagnosed with cancer, is subject to a rogue experiment by shady British villain Ajax Ed Skrein. He gets his healing ability and sets about getting his revenge on the British villain.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know.
That's about the plot for this movie. It's a pretty flimsy plot. It's a pretty basic plot because the majority of the movie is taken up with the character of Deadpool, who people love from the comics.
Which you would hope it would be.
Yeah, but that's the thing. The movie really is not all about the plot. There's no twists and turns. There's no double crossing. There's nothing in it that's gonna be surprising. I mean, from that synopsis alone, you pretty much know the trajectory the film's going to take. It's more focused on the humour.
We did leave out it was a love story.
It was a love story. Which even Deadpool himself explains halfway through the movie, that this is a love story, as he keeps reminding you through the film. But yeah, I thought it was a good film.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it. I went to see it after being at work all day, and I was pretty tired because we've seen it pretty late at night on the opening night. But by the end of it, I was full of life. Yeah. It was like a shot of caffeine.
I think anyone who's a fan of the Deadpool from the comic books is going to enjoy this film, because obviously Deadpool's been in. He was in the Wolverine film before.
He was in X-Men Origins, the 2009 Wolverine one, and that sucked balls. That was an awful movie. Yeah, because he had swords for hands. They sewn up his mouth. I think he had laser vision. I can't really remember. This
film definitely gets back to the character as he's portrayed in the comic books.
The character people know and love.
Yeah, you've got the same sense of humour. You've got plenty of fourth wall breaking.
Yeah, the script was fantastic. It was really well written. It was really fast paced humour. Yeah,
there were a lot of jokes in here, which is one thing that I was worried about, that the jokes were going to be fairly sparse, or that you'd seen all the jokes in the trailers, which sometimes happens. You've seen all the funniest bits in the trailers, but there's definitely... I mean, the jokes are so non-stop that there's no way they could have shown you them all in the trailers. Pretty much every minute that he's on screen.
It's constant. And people were laughing so much, and that I couldn't actually hear jokes because people were still laughing from the previous joke.
Yeah.
And they were so ecstatic about it. They were enjoying it so much that you couldn't even hear the next joke.
Yeah.
That's how fast-paced the jokes were.
Yeah, and the jokes that they put in here as well, they referenced a lot of other Marvel movies. They referenced actors, again with the fourth wall breaking. Yeah. So they talked about James McAvoy and Patrick Stewart playing Professor Xavier, which was quite funny. They talked about not having the budget.
Yeah, because they only meet two other X-Men characters. They only meet Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Yeah,
and at one point, quite far into the film, Deadpool goes to the mansion, Xavier Mansion, the School for Mutants, and is like, "This is a really big house. Only met two E's. You think the studio couldn't afford the budget for more characters?"
Yeah, it's weird that I only see the two of you here in this huge house.
So, it pokes fun at itself. It's a very self-aware movie, and it kind of takes the piss out of other superhero movies, which is what Deadpool does, and all the other characters. It just is.
Yeah,
it was done what it's expected.
It was a weird one in that way because obviously he is part of the Marvel universe, but he's always kind of the anti-hero, and jokes about the Marvel universe, like references to other Marvel characters. I mean, even in this, he's constantly making fun of the X-Men being like a boy band and being kind of goody two-shoes.
But it also kind of makes fun of like Ryan Reynolds and Ryan Reynolds' career. Like, it does a lot of there's a little kind of subtle Green Lantern jokes.
This was one of the things. One of the things with the humor is you'll get so much more out of this film if you're a fan of the other X-Men films and you know things about Green Lantern and you've watched the other films, because certain jokes would just go over your head if you didn't know that. Like, there were even some things that I looked up today which I didn't know, and now the joke makes a lot more sense that I do know it. Like, for example, the one joke that I didn't quite get at the time was when he said, don't sew my mouth shut. Or like the bad guy says, I'm going to sew your mouth shut.
Yeah, because he won't shut up.
And he says, don't do that, that would be awful.
Which it was.
which is
It
a
was
reference
horrible.
to the past film.
Yeah.
I didn't get it. I thought it was funny even in the context of this film, but once you understand, like, oh, that's a reference to the other film. And the same with the...
They even have the little figurine from X-Men Origins Wolverine.
The same with
sitting there as well.
The same with the joke about the animated super suit.
Yeah, don't make it green and don't make it animated.
Yeah, because obviously that's a Green Lantern reference.
And
so there are jokes which you would get if you didn't know this film, but you'd get more out of this if you do know it.
And you noticed the Monty Python reference.
Yeah, there was a lot of humour in it.
Or we think it's a Monty Python reference.
Yeah, there were a couple of points where I could kind of see a Monty Python influence. The first, like, the movie opens and like this, it was getting laughs kind of from the first few moments because you have like a really hilarious credit sequence with no names, but people are just listed like a British villain and a really hot girl and handsomest man in the world. And what was the one for the director? An
overpaid tool.
An overpaid tool.
The writers were the real heroes here.
So people were like laughing at that straight away, and I thought, oh, that's kind of Monty Python-esque with like messing with the credits, messing with the format. And the second one, which anyone who's seen Monty Python: The Holy Grail, I think, would recognise that scene.
We both thought that.
Yeah, he's fighting Colossus and punching him, breaks his left wrist, punches him again, breaks his right wrist, but keeps going, kicks him, breaks like his left.
So he's only
foot.
got one leg.
Yeah,
left.
so you're thinking, oh, that's definitely a Monty Python reference. And the thing which kind of nailed it for me was he mentioned Basil Fawlty in the film. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I was like, oh, they definitely know their Monty Python.
Yeah.
And that was the thing with the jokes. There were so many, we were saying, different types of jokes. Because a lot of people thought the humour would just be crass, kind of toilet humour, which there was.
There was, yeah.
But there was also kind of reference jokes.
There was loads of cultural references as well, and different, like, there'd be people, like, for American audiences, maybe they'll get some of them, but there's loads for, like, everybody else as well. And I think there is something for everybody, because even if you're not, like, a massive superhero fan, it's not just loads of, like, comic book references that you're not going to get.
That was the two jokes that made me laugh the most, referencing the Negasonic Teenage Warhead. One of them calling her Sinead O'Connor, and one of them calling her Ripley from Alien 3. Yeah. And that was really the joke, just the fact that if you've seen that film, and she looks kind of similar.
But there's even like little Star Wars ones where he's in bed with his girlfriend Vanessa, who I think is Morena Ballerin? I don't know. I can't pronounce that. I don't know. But she's been in like V, the kind of alien thing, in Homeland and Serenity, so she's quite a well-known person.
Yeah.
Maybe you're thinking, I don't know who that is, but once you see the film, you probably will.
I didn't know a lot of the actors in this.
No, I didn't. Like she's just one of the. I would say her and Ryan Reynolds are the kind of the two most famous ones. I didn't really recognise anyone else. No, to be honest.
I think maybe if you're American, they're maybe been in more American shows, so that would be the thing.
Well, like the woman that played Vanessa, she's been in a lot of stuff. But Negasonic Teenage Warhead, is it Bjarne Hildebrand? She was really good in it. Yeah, she worked really well with Deadpool and Colossus. I thought like the three of them together were a pretty good unit. That was
the thing, because it was the interplay of having Colossus and her, who are kind of the straight men, because they're just the X-Men as you've seen them in other X-Men films.
Well, Colossus was being the kind of good guy, and like Negasonic Teenage Warhead's kind of this disinterested teen.
So they kind of offer Deadpool something to play against, which is quite funny.
And we had like Angel Dust and Ajax, the two kind of main bad evil characters.
Yeah, the two main villains. Yeah.
But you weren't in love with the edge screen.
It was just basically, like I said in the first part of this, the plot wasn't the main focus of the film. Like, it's not really about the plot at all, it's more about the humour. And I suppose with a film like this, the difficulty is because he's breaking the fourth wall constantly and making self-referential jokes, it would be hard to do a serious plot and do that at the same time. Like, in a way, you can't do the serious plot and make fun of it at the same time. And that was the thing. I just felt the villain was good. The good thing about the villain was that it was like a personal story. They didn't try and make Deadpool an Iron Man figure or a Superman where he's saving the world.
He wasn't saving the world. He wasn't like saving a city.
He's basically just going for his girlfriend.
Yeah, he's doing it for his own reasons.
Yeah, which is consistent with the character. So that was one of the things that, just the villain wasn't that impressive. Like, he didn't have any special abilities other than he couldn't feel pain. I thought maybe they would have done
But
something fun.
I still think they got across that he was quite a evil guy.
Yeah.
He was a bit of a dick.
I mean, I heard they were going to go with a different villain for this. I don't know who it was, but it was some mutant who had a power which they just thought wouldn't fit because it would be more fantastical and it wouldn't have really fit with this film.
But they weren't even going to cast the same two X-Men to help him either. But it was just like budgetary. But I thought like in the end it worked really well. And I do get what you're saying. Like Ajax wasn't like a really. He wasn't like a kind of. But I think it's tough to be a villain in a film where it's against an anti-hero, because Deadpool's not really the kind of most wholesome character. So it's hard to be like a villain.
He wasn't a supervillain, which is I think what I'm trying to get across. The thing that it reminded me of, if anyone's seen Super, the film with Rainn Wilson, that's a really good film. That's the closest thing I could describe the plot of this to, because it's him going for his girlfriend, and the villain is just like a bad guy. He's not a supervillain. His plan is not even to take over the world, or even really to take over anything. He's just a not very nice person. On the characters, like, the relationship I really did like was between Wade Wilson and Vanessa, his girlfriend. Like, their relationship really worked well, which I thought was good in the comment. Like, we were joking about it being a romance film, but like that part of it,
works really well.
Yeah, like they have great chemistry together, and it's unconventional compared to other films, but compared to real life, it's probably more representative of a real relationship, I thought.
Yeah, I had that humour, and that you just did get across that they cared about each other, which kind of helped the film move along, because without that, you're thinking, oh, he doesn't really care about anything. You got the fact that he cared about Vanessa. Yeah. And Vanessa cared about him, so I thought they were really
that was the thing, the film did have that emotional heart in. If it hadn't have had that, it could have maybe seemed shallow and a little empty, and you would have thought it was really funny, but pointless.
Because they did kind of contemplate not doing an origin story.
Yeah.
But then they were like, it's not really going to work in the kind of long term.
Yeah.
If they're going to do another one, they'd be like, oh, how did all this happen? What's wrong with that guy's face? You know, there'd be a lot of explanation that wasn't there, because they're just going to do it having like a little adventure, but then they kind of thought, it'd work better to do that. And I think it did. But it also didn't run kind of, because it was flashbacks as well. Yeah. You were straight into Deadpool, and you weren't just into an origin story. You were.
That's the thing. Even though it's an origin story, the origins part is told in a couple or a few flashbacks. Yeah. So you start with Deadpool on his mission. You start, I think someone pointed this out, about 2/3 of the way through the film. Actually, like the very first scene you see, you're actually almost getting towards the latter half of the film, and then it flashes back and has the introduction of how he became Deadpool and his life before. So in that way they kind of got round a kind of boring introduction to Wade Wilson before you get to Deadpool, which is what people want to see. But yeah, one of the things on the story that I thought was good as well was obviously Deadpool before he becomes Deadpool, Wade Wilson, when he gets cancer, and suddenly the film takes like a really somber turn, and they literally turned on a dime, because it went from kind of humour to suddenly a really dark theme, and you really do feel the emotional impact, even more so than I've seen in some films which are meant to be serious.
Which are trying to be more emotional.
Yeah, which are trying to be emotional and trying to be serious on the subject. It was the fact that he was so humorous and laughing, and then when he stopped, it was like, you really feel like that's a kind of a tragedy's hit him. But
they do get that across, but I think like the moment it kind of gets too romantic and too sapping, you're thinking, but they just pull it right back with a bit of humour.
Yeah.
But it's so well written. I think it was written by like Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. I've probably not got that right, but I think they were the guys that done Zombieland.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I thought I liked Zombieland.
I liked Zombieland.
So I think the writing was fantastic. I think it was maybe down to like Ryan Reynolds wanting to do this as well, because
but it has the same dark sense of humour, I guess. Yeah. But it's like I was saying with the romantic relationship. That's more realistic for people than if you have an overly sentimental film. I sometimes think people don't recognise that as real life. But if you do have tragedy in your life, there is still going to be humour there. People are still going to be joking, and even though it's sad, there'll still be jokes. So that people think, that's more realistic to what it's really like.
I really liked the kind of. I thought the slow motion violence kind of worked for it. I like the slow motion stuff, like because it kind of had a bit of the kind of Quicksilver and X-Men Days of Future Past, and maybe didn't look quite as good as that.
Yeah,
but they obviously didn't have the same budget, which they reference in the movie as well. Like, we don't have the same budget, but like I thought it worked really well. And the action sequences, the slow motion.
Yeah,
stuff
I really
like
liked the action sequences. I like the fact that Deadpool's always doing some kind of athletic flip through the air. He never just attacks someone straight up. He always has to leap into the air and do like a couple of like twists and flips and things.
Maximum effort
as he's fighting or as he's shooting at them. So yeah, I thought the action sequences were well done. Again, that was one of those things that it's difficult for the character of Deadpool to be serious when he's not serious for the most part. So at the end, the end of the film, you kind of have almost like a traditional showdown between Deadpool and the villain character. Yeah. Most of the film, I would say, is a fairly traditional origin story. You have him and his girlfriend and the bad guy. Even though he's self-referential and he's mentioning this and saying, I think that one of the first things he said is he looks straight at the camera and says, "Hey guys, I got my own movie." So straight away you're thinking, okay, he knows that he's a movie character. So then it is hard to pull that back to serious. But I thought it managed it with his story, with his relationship with his girlfriend, and with the cancer subplot, or not a subplot, but the cancer part of it. I thought it worked. It worked really well. I think if there was any kind of weak links in it, it was probably the villain and the fact that the plot itself wasn't that. There weren't that many twists and turns. There weren't that many fun things in the plot. It was a fairly straightforward plot. Like, there was fourth wall breaking in this, but there wasn't over the top weird kind of going backwards in time or referencing things.
Well, there was the flashbacks.
Yeah, there were flashbacks, but there was nothing like him stepping out, him mentioning like the director or the writers of the film in the film, I don't think. Which I thought there might have been. Like, he might have referenced more. He did do the one bit at the beginning where he said, "Oh, like, I'm in my own movie." But after that, he didn't really reference the fact that... He didn't really talk about the fact that this was a movie. It is a really strange film. Like, when you get thinking about it, it's one of those things like a time travel movie that you can't really think about it too much because it doesn't make any sense that he's doing the story, but he also knows he's in the story at the same time. So in that way, it was a weird one. Yeah, and like, it was a traditional origin story again.
I haven't really got anything bad to say about it, apart from, like, I was a bit worried because there's like an oversaturation of superhero movies. Yeah. And, like, it's every month, I feel like there's one. But... Well,
this year there's going to be a lot because we've got Batman, Superman coming out. You've got the Suicide Squad movie coming out, which I'm excited for.
Captain
America. So yeah, there's a lot coming out in this year.
There's loads, but I think like this was kind of different because it was more poking fun at itself. It was more light-hearted. So it wasn't really a bad thing, but I was a bit worried. Like, there is just too many for me.
Yeah. I thought this came, like the right time. I think the reason this movie is being received so well and so popular is because it's making fun of superhero movies, which people have maybe seen a little bit too much of.
Yeah, it's got something from it, because people could go and not know Deadpool because he's not like your kind of classic character. He's not like Batman or Superman that everybody knows. It's like, but there's something for people to go and enjoy because it's just making loads of cultural references and stuff. So
the fact that this is a comedy as well, people probably enjoy it more than they would enjoy superhero movies in general, because superhero movies, they put some humour in there, but sometimes they are kind of po-faced.
Yeah, and some more than others, but I think it's not as much humour.
Even the Marvel ones, which are kind of have a bit of fun and have a bit of humour, is not as much as this, which is basically a comedy movie. It
still did everything I wanted it to do. I wasn't disappointed when I left.
Like, I really enjoyed it, and the showing we were in was packed, and I think everyone was enjoying it.
At the end, the guy applauded.
Stood up and one guy giving the film a standing ovation.
Something I've never seen.
One of the odd things watching it was, like we were saying, there's a lot of references to cultural references made in the film, and it was odd to see like people laughing at some things and not laughing at others. Yeah, like you mentioned the part where he has the Deadpool toy, Is it a Deadpool toy?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that went straight past me, so I wouldn't have laughed at that. And then there were some things that people laughed out loud at, which
But there was something for
I
everybody.
just didn't
though.
recognise.
Yeah. But I think there's something for everybody. So you don't need to be
Yeah.
the most hardcore fan in the world, but you can still enjoy it.
Yeah,
There was loads of things that weren't comic book references. And
it was
superhero
funny
references.
that like some of the references were early 90s references, like that Deadpool makes, kind of making fun of the fact that he's not one of the younger generation of superheroes, and I found that amusing because they could have done pop culture references from like present day to make it up to date, but in a sense it's funny that they're referencing that he's kind of out of his time, like like even the X-Men, like the Negasonic Teenage Warrior is one of the newer generation. So like she, every time like she sees him, she just looks bored, as though like.
But I think that's just like when you're a teenager, you're not really interested in anybody.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's kind of making fun of the fact that like Deadpool's doing this shtick,
Yeah.
and it just obviously doesn't impress her. She doesn't find it amusing.
But she's not very impressed by anything in the movie. I mean, at one point she's just like, he's like, "Oh, just finish your tweet. It's fine."
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, overall, like a really good movie. One of the things that a lot of people have talked about, there was an end credits scene. If you wait till after the credits, I think everyone must have known this because like everybody stayed sat down.
It's a kind of standard thing.
And I don't know what I expected, whether it was going to be him with the other X-Men or
I was
X-Men
really just expecting him to be like, "What are you still doing here? Go home." And yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Because he was like, "Yeah, I'm not your superhero. I'm not your stereotypical superhero. I've not got anything for you."
He made reference to, what was it, Nick Fury? He said, "What do you think Samuel Jackson's going to come in?"
And some kind of tasty leather number, an eye patch. Yeah, so there was like there is hints to the next one, so I don't want to give too much away. Would you like to see Deadpool? Would you like to see more Deadpool and more X-Men? Would you like that?
Yeah, well, I think they're definitely going to do a second movie, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
And I think with the second movie, I would probably enjoy it more than this one because they're not going to have to do the origin story. And like I think you were saying, they were planning to do just an adventure story with him in this one, just him doing random kind of
just doing his thing.
Yeah, which that's kind of what I imagined. Even though I'd kind of forgotten that in the trailer it even does explain that this is going to be an origin story.
Yeah.
I just expected him to be doing more things. That was one of the things when they got like halfway through, 2/3 of the way through, you start to realise that that's it. He's just going to get that guy and the girlfriend. I thought once they'd established his origins, he was going to go off and do, like, there was going to be a bigger kind of climax in a way. But yeah, that's the thing. In the if they do another one, I imagine this film's going to make a lot of money. And in the second one, maybe they could even afford another X-Men character to come in and join him, or a villain. Pay Stan Lee some more money and get the rights to someone else.
He was in it too. We didn't say that. He's in it. He had a little cameo.
Yeah, we didn't mention the Stan Lee cameo, so
look out for that.
Yeah, watch out for it. You might easily be distracted and miss it.
Yeah, that is a good point.
But yeah, like I don't know how well he would fit in with other X-Men movies. I haven't read a lot of the X-Men comic books or the Deadpool comic books, and I know that he does crop up, but it's usually as kind of a small part when he pops up in the X-Men comic books. And the Deadpool one that I read, he's interacting with a lot of different characters from the Marvel universe. It's just he's a weird character because he doesn't really, in a sense, he is a kind of rebel and a loner, and he doesn't really fit in with the other characters, which they played up a lot in this film.
Well, he's a bit of a kind of... He just likes to have a laugh.
Yeah.
It's quite a silly character. I read a lot of stuff that was kind of quite negative about it. Like, they weren't enjoying it. It was like the humour wasn't great. It was just all knob jokes.
Yeah.
And it didn't really work very well. But I think it worked very well for a Deadpool movie because it did what I'd expect a Deadpool movie to do, because it was funny. It was a bit violent. And
it does have a kind of puerile sense of humour, but if you like that sense of humour, then...
But there was more to it than that, because there was still like the emotions, and there was still like you cared about the characters.
Yeah.
You still cared about Deadpool, and you still cared about Vanessa.
Yeah.
So I did think it worked well. It wasn't just the jokes, but the jokes were constant.
I would like to see where they go with this. One of the things that I did like about this film, a little bit the same reason that I like Guardians of the Galaxy, was because it was a brand new character. Deadpool's not brand new. Like, I know he's turned up as thing, but this was the first time they've done him properly. And it felt like the same way Guardians of the Galaxy was refreshing because you've never seen them before, so you're thinking kind of, oh, this could go anywhere.
Yeah, you've never seen that on the big screen. Like when people have been wanting this for you.
When you see a Superman or Batman, it's like you know who all their villains are, and because you've seen the films before, you pretty much know how the film's going to go. They're not going to do anything that surprising with them at this point. Even the Marvel ones, now there's just been the 2 Avengers movies, but there's been plenty of kind of lead-up movies.
It's all connected.
Yeah,
connected.
But once you've seen like a few of them, you kind of get the idea that it's going to be set up the character, villain comes in, they have to find a way of defeating the villain. But with Deadpool and Guardians, like, oh, they could go anywhere with this. You don't know. Obviously, if you've read the comics, you might have some ideas about what you would like to see in the kind of follow-up movies and things. But yeah, I'd just be interested to see what kind of where they go with this character. And it's good that Ryan Reynolds finally got a decent superhero movie to be in.
Yeah, I think it's been part of him like just wanting to do it because he's obviously just a fan of the character as well.
Yeah,
like him continually pestering the studio to let him do it.
Yeah,
because I think like the scene on the bridge on the freeway that's been around for a while that they pitched the studio and the studio were like,
yeah,
I don't know if we really want to do it, and they kept kind of.
Was that the scene that they said they'd actually filmed like a 3 minutes? And it did really well with test audiences, and they kept it in the film.
And it got leaked, and everybody was like, "Oh, I would really want to see this." And the studio were like, "Yeah, okay, go and make it," because like, everybody obviously wants to see it.
At first, they were like, and then they heard the rustling of people's money.
Yeah, and they were like, "Yeah, go and do this." So I'd totally recommend it if you like Deadpool. A Crisp Pie 5 or a Crisp Pie 10, whatever. It's a very, if you go and see it, that's you'll get that.
Yeah, you'll have it. Yeah, you'll definitely have a good time at the film, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I came out and I was entertained and I was amused by it, and I laughed, I cried.
That's all you can ask for.
Yeah, that's all I want in life is some kind of emotion coming out of me. We'd recommend the opening credit scene. That's hilarious, just because it goes down everything in a different kind of way, and we both really liked the taxi driver. Anything with the taxi driver was good.
I think like the film definitely has some rewatch value as well because. Like you said, people were maybe laughing over jokes and you didn't get them. Yeah, or you maybe didn't get the references full stop because you don't know the source material.
Yeah, there's loads of things like you could have missed. So yeah, it's definitely worth another watch.
So I definitely recommend this movie, not only to Marvel fans, but just to anyone who wants to go see a good comedy movie.
Yeah, like I really liked it. I mean, it's not like a masterpiece of cinema.
No.
But like for what it was fantastic, and I really loved it, and it was just really funny, and I had everything I wanted. Yeah,
that's the thing. It's if you're a Deadpool fan and you've been waiting for this film, I don't think it would disappoint you.
Yeah.
If you maybe don't know who the Deadpool character is,
I still don't think it'll disappoint you, because I met somebody on the way out that had never seen Deadpool, who I work with, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I loved it."
Yeah,
and she had no idea what she was going to see. She said to me before, she was like, "I'm going to see Deadpool." So
yeah, I guess because it does have jokes in there for everyone.
But she was like, "I loved it," and she has no clue about
anything.
No, she's just like she's not into Deadpool. She was just like, "I'm going to see Deadpool."
She's never been to a movie theatre before.
She was like, "What is this big building?" You know. But yeah, she loved it. So I mean, I think even if you don't like Deadpool, it's got something for you too.